Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Steelheads Weekly with your host, myself, Darius Domingues, and of course, Mark Freitas. Mark, how are we doing this week?
A lot better than last week with a couple big Steelheads wins. Some former Steelheads players are joining some big NHL clubs.
That's
A
right.
lot of good things coming out of the Steelheads this weekend.
That's right. And I want to start the episode with alumni. Like you said, I did want to start with obviously Alex Nylander, former Mississauga Steelhead when they were in Mississauga. Made the headlines this weekend when he was called up to sign an NHL contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs and obviously playing with his brother. That's the first set of siblings playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs since 1987, so pretty cool for them. And I never would have envisioned them playing together on the same team, so that was a pretty cool moment. And obviously, him being a former Steelhead, I thought that was cool. I wish he would have scored though.
Yeah, he almost did too. Almost got my parlay going. But yeah, no, it's good. It's great seeing these former Steelheads doing well in the NHL.
Yep,
With Nylander, Owen Tippett, Cole Schwindt, Nick Hague, Dylan DeMello, list goes on. Spencer Martin getting his first NHL shutout 2 weeks ago.
that's right.
So a lot of guys we grew up, or through our child, like, through our teen years, through our adult years, doing well in the NHL.
Yeah, making a difference, and I think that's cool. Especially guys
Yep.
like Owen Tippett, Alex Nylander, like the ride that they kind of went on, like that's cool. Nick Hague's a Stanley Cup champion now, like a couple of the names you
hmm
mentioned, right? So
Thomas Harley,
really cool.
can't
Thomas
forget.
Harley, one of the best defensemen in the Dallas Stars system, so very very cool. I say system, but like he's on the team. What I mean, like he's
Yeah.
one of the best defensemen they have. But yeah,
So
very very cool. Now to
yeah.
move to current day in the Brampton
hmm
Steelhead schedule. Obviously, a busy week again. It wasn't a 3-3, but 3 games again this week that we have to cover. And it didn't start great, but it did finish pretty well. And I think it had something to do with obviously injuries because last week we touched on a few of the injuries, but we missed some significant ones. We missed some key ones.
My
And we
God.
did not mention some key ones. Obviously, we mentioned, Stevie Lescovar is out already for an extended period of time. He's missed quite a few games already. Obviously, Lucas Carmirez has been out with, a lower body injury, I believe, when he got hurt. That's what it
hmm
looked like. And obviously, they were missing Parker Von Richter. They were missing a bunch of guys. I think Mason Sebeski
Yep.
missed some time at one point.
McDonnell.
Mac Donnell's been out. Lots of injuries. Lots of injuries. I think
Sova, that's a big one.
Spencer Sova. I think it's at one point the Steelheads' top 4 defensemen were not playing for a chunk of games there in the last week or 2 weeks. So it's been a rough ride for them. Obviously, they've been signing a lot of guys in the system who've come up and played really well. I think Jared Harding has played very well from what I saw. We'll get into the game specifically that they played, but
Yeah.
he's one guy that really caught my eye, and he's been playing well. And then of course Jack Ivankovic starting all 3 games. But Mark, we'll start with Wednesday against the Erie Otters. It was looking good. It was looking good. They were up
Yep.
4-2. Obviously, Erie went up
hmm
2-0. Not great. But then the Steelheads stormed back. They scored 4 unanswered, and then it kind of turned on its head. And these are the things we've been talking about, right? These, like the power play again has been an issue the last couple of games. We'll get into that as well. But yeah, not great. I think it had something to do with a lot of your top guys out due to injury.
It really did. And I think you said they were down 2-0, and they quickly, came back into the game. They got a goal from Zabeski, then they got Misa, then Fibiger, then another one from Zabeski. So then they were up 4-2 in that at that point. So you're kind of
Yeah.
thinking, all right, just shut it down. Oh, everyone goes home happy. You bang 2 points, and you can go on to your next game Friday against Niagara. That wasn't the case. As we know, the Steelers defense, it was banged up, but this was, I guess, before Von Richter was hurt.
Yeah. Or I believe
So
he had just come back in this game. It could be. I think he was missing time until
no,
this game.
he didn't play that too. Then I don't think he played. Uh, sorry, not Von Richter. Sorry, I made a mistake there. I don't think he did play this game.
No.
Um, Let me check here real quick. Yeah, no, sorry, he did not play this game. That was a mistake. I got mixed up with Van Volsen. Um, so Von Richter was out, so was out, Leskovar's out, and I think those are the top three defensemen that were out
Yep.
on their team. So they did have a young defense core, and that's a lot to kind of ask for
Very young.
from your young defense to hold on to a big lead like, well, I guess you could, yeah, it's a big lead like that, and obviously, the Otters come back and they score 5 unanswered goals
Yeah,
to win the game. And it was kind of like shocking because the Steelers have been dominant of Erie for the past, I want to say, couple seasons now.
a little bit.
So
Yeah, ever
yeah.
since really that when they lost to them in the final, I would say they've
Hmm.
kind of had Erie's number. But yeah, an interesting game there, and like you said, very young defense core coming into that. There's only so much they can do. They give up a ton of shots again, which is something we were talking about last week. Obviously, Sam
Hmm.
Alfano scores a hat trick in this one. Like I mentioned, 46 shots against, and Ivan Kovic steers away 39 of them. You only get 25 shots on goal in this game. Your power play, obviously, you only have 2 opportunities. You score on one of them, which is good. That's progress
Yep. Yep.
compared to last week, right? That was okay, but again, not a great effort. You would hope that you'd bend, not break, but unfortunately, I mean, it's a young team playing in this one, and you got Cartwright in a couple games here. Like I mentioned, Jared Harding has been playing well. Troy Patton's getting into games because of the injuries as well. So
Yep.
very thin lineup, and I think we can kind of chalk it up to that. And I think they're trying because a lot of guys are playing in situations that are very uncomfortable for them, and a lot of your top guys are not playing. So hopefully they can turn it around, but we'll move on to the next game on Friday night, back at home, CAA Center against the Niagara Ice Dogs, the red hot Niagara Ice Dogs, still tops of the Eastern Conference. And this one was a little bit of a different result.
Yep.
Steelheads completely outshot the Ice Dogs and went up real quick 3-0 in the first period. Fantastic from the first goal scored by exactly who you thought it would come from, Gabriel Schrott, who gets on the board again. Second goal of the season. I love his game. I think he's a great depth player for the Steelheads team, but obviously he's moved up a little bit with some injuries. But he's a great depth option for them. And then obviously Porter Martone doing his thing again, getting back on the board. And Mason Sebeski, was nice to see him score. Ivan Kovic again plays in every game this week, which I thought was interesting. And one guy I wanted to highlight that I noticed, I wasn't actually at the game, but I was watching some of it on TV, and I know you're at the game, and I want to get your thoughts of the game on Friday. But I believe his name is Graham McCauley. He played defense, number 74. He
Dude, he
played
was impressive.
very impressive player. Like I could tell right away watching on TV, I was like, this guy's playing with confidence. He's a very smooth skater. I was very impressed with him. I'd never seen him play before, admittedly, but I thought he played a really, really good game. And I'm not saying, he made a huge difference or anything like that, but
Yeah.
I thought he was pretty good. He stepped in there and he looked like he belonged. That's for sure. So really impressive performance for him
Yep.
specifically.
Oh yeah, he was very impressive. Like I said, you said I was there at the game. I did miss the first goal as I came in right when the puck drop happened, so I just ran to the washroom quick, and then all I heard is the horn go off. I'm like, oh well, it's already 1-0, like 1 minute in,
Yeah.
and then surprisingly, I'm like, oh, Sherrod scored, but he's been impressive, um, uh, since he's been with the Steelheads,
Yep.
actually. So nice to see him get on the board. And then obviously, Zabetsky would score about maybe 10 minutes later. So, Steelers are sitting comfortably. And then they finally scored on a power play goal as well. So the power play's been heating
Yes.
up
Yep.
from Porter Martone. And the team, they look good. And they did have young guys on defense. So they did have um, where is he here? They had Graham McCauley,
Yep.
and they as well had Alexander Steven, and they signed them prior to the game, and even no pun intended, even Steven also looked very um, impressive as well. Like those guys looked like they belonged
Yep.
right away. They didn't look nervous. They were very well sound defensively on the defensive play. So that was another thing that I noticed as well, and even some of the fans beside me were saying how impressive Macaulay looked. So hopefully he could stay around for a bit, even after everyone
Well, I mean,
comes
they're still
back.
dealing with some injuries, so he might stick around for a
Yeah.
bit, and you never know. He might earn himself a kind of a reserve spot there. But
Yeah,
I do know they've used quite a few cards already, I believe. So I'm not sure how that would work out, but obviously for now, I think he's playing great.
yeah, and before we get more into the game, we should also mention prior to Friday they did make a trade. They did
That's
acquire
right.
Chase Lefebvre
Yeah.
from Peterborough, so he was already in the lineup, and he looked impressive too. He looked big out there, looked strong. For a big guy, sometimes their skating is okay. So he looked good.
He played
He
with
had
some
a
jump.
he did, and he had a really good chance in overtime. He got robbed, man.
Yeah.
Almost won the game in his first steel game as a steelhead. Um, and I kind of want to think here, like, give him a shot with the big guys, like in overtime. They didn't do it, but I was like, why not? You're putting out, a line of Raycroft, Martone, and him would have been nice in overtime because I think Martone, I think, sauced him that pass
hmm
uh, where he almost scored. So then they
I
got off, but it would have been interesting.
I think it's interesting too because he's a new guy coming in, and I'm pretty sure I saw that he actually drove to the game right before, like himself, to this
Oh
game
my
as soon as he
God.
got traded over from Peterborough. So,
Yeah.
shout out for that to get into that game. But
407.
yeah, 407 the whole way. I don't even know if it does it go that far to Peterborough. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
He can take the 407 to
Um,
Peterborough.
so yeah, so he drove himself to the game. That was pretty cool that I saw that. And then on top of it, I mean, he's a new guy coming in. He wants to impress his teammates. He wants to impress the coach. So he's flying. He's playing with some jump. I noticed that. I thought that was good. And then obviously in overtime, I mean, he has OHL experience. You have a very young lineup right now with a lot of guys who don't have that experience. And yes, maybe you want to, put them into the fire right away just to see what they have in
Yep.
situations like that. But you also have a guy like this that has played in the OHL. He's an overager. You can put him in that situation, and he might be able
OHO
to do something.
champion.
That's right, very underrated OHL champion. So they add another one of those to the lineup, which I think is pretty cool too in a trade. But there you go, another overager to the team, and I think they're going to be that much better now with a guy like this.
Hmm.
When everyone comes back, that's really really good depth. So looking to the future, but of course we're not going to go too far. The Steelheads win in a shootout, which I thought was pretty good. A couple. Shootout can always go 50-50, right? So I thought that they had a really good effort there. Won it in the shootout. The power play,
Yes.
again, one for
Yep.
three, which I thought was maybe a little concerning. I feel like you want to continue to get that rolling as much as possible. But
Hmm.
considering they had a younger lineup, yes, they let Niagara back in the game, but Niagara is a very good team this year, and they, held on for the win. So that was good in my books.
It was good, especially for a team like Niagara. They have really good players. Like that Kevin He guy is really
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Winnipeg Jets
Um,
prospect. So shout out to Winnipeg for that. They got a pretty
yeah,
good
he was
prospect there.
dangerous. Every time he had the puck, I'm like, gotta watch him. And they
Yeah.
they they held him down pretty well. Um, And I did want to say one more thing about Lefebvre. I guess like as while having him, he's kind of like another player like Carmira. So you kind of have two of those. So Carmiras has like the offensive defensive side, and I find for Lefebvre you could use him more for like just straight defense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like to give two versions of Carmiras
Right.
in one with Lefebvre. That's gonna be kind of cool to have when he comes back from his injury.
Yeah, maybe Carmiers. I mean, he's a very responsible player, actually. Very underrated, Carmiers is. So
Hmm.
when he comes back, that'll just add to that. Maybe he can focus more offensively when you have Lefebvre back there as well. I
Yeah.
say back there, he's not a defenseman, but, he's more responsible. Maybe you put him in more defensive zone face-offs, stuff like that, so he'll be out there in more defensive situations. So, again, it's
Oh yeah.
adding some more depth to the team. And on top of it, I believe they still have more assets that they can go out and get another big fish, no pun intended, before the season's done. So, not even before the season's done. I mean, the trade deadline at this point is about 2 months away. So they
Yeah, that would
have
be before we know it.
not even, maybe a little bit less than 2 months, but it's moving and coming very quickly. But then we move into Sunday again at home in the CAA Center. It's the Pucks and Paws game, so everyone brings their dog to the game. Interesting vibe, that's for sure, and something that not too many other teams do, and is a new concept. So very interesting for that. Ironically, it's against the Greyhounds, the Pucks and Paws game, which I thought was funny as well. But again, in this game, power play is an issue. 0-4. I feel like you have to clean that up.
Yikes.
But despite not scoring on the power play in 4 opportunities, the Steelers put 8 goals up on the Greyhounds, who are a middle of the pack team, really, in the Western Conference. So, I'm not going to say that it isn't surprising. But again, Sioux Greyhounds struggling a little bit. But the Brampton Steelheads, again, with a great performance. Porter Martone, 4 assists
4 points.
in this game. Carson Raycroft. This was the story of the hat tricks. He gets a hat trick, obviously. Witkowski gets a hat trick, which was pretty cool. Kieran Witkowski, his first in
Yep.
the OHL as well, so good for him. And a pretty nice hat trick, too. Some nice quality goals, so pretty feel good there. But, Mark, I mean, they kind of, like, they went down early. It was 1-0 Sault Ste. Marie early, but then they scored, I believe, 4 unanswered and never really looked back. So,
Yeah, no,
actually,
they needed
it
a
might have
game
been
like
5
that.
unanswered, sorry. But, yeah.
Yeah, no, they really needed a game like that, and it came at a good time, especially when you got Von Ricker who came back and Sova back in the lineup.
Yep.
So that gave you a little bit of a boost because you got most of your top defensive guys back, and McCauley actually played in this game too. So
Yep.
there's
No, he
some
looked great.
already early trust there. Lefebvre was a +3. I know you don't like plus minus, but it's a fake stat according to you. But
Do you look into plus minus? We could have this talk right now.
God no.
No, no, I don't think
I
it's
just
a
I
real
just
stat.
I just wanted to point that out. He was a +3, and Witkowski was a +3 as well.
I think plus minus has some use, but when you're looking at it for top players, like if you're talking about Porter Martone and his plus minus, I don't think we could have the conversation because he plays too much on special teams. So
Yep.
it just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. But anyway,
But Martone having a big game like that on a serious note, like that's even better for his stock, his draft stock.
yep,
He's just killing it, man. And
he
the
is.
guy, like I say, every time you and I talk about him, there's always something new, and he's just getting better and better and better. And I think he'll have a big showing. I believe it's this week. It's the prospects game.
Yeah, it's coming up here this week as well. Yeah.
So he's gonna have a big showing at that. And I think he'll continue whatever he does there to this weekend when they play. Um, I wanted to add one other thing. He made me laugh because when he scored in the shootout, I know we always kind of talk about when his goal celebration there, but I've never seen a guy who always has something to say to the opposing bench
Yeah,
every time he
yeah.
scores, and I always get a chuckle out of it because I can read lips sometimes. The stuff that he says is pretty funny. So I mean, just keep doing that. It gets me laughing. But no, it just it's good having a player like that. It's fantastic.
Porter
Puts up points
Martone.
and he backs it up.
Porter Martone. Yes, he is a special player. Honestly, he puts up the points, and he's putting up a lot of points. Like he's having a fantastic season, and he can talk trash, and he can back it up. He has the shot. He can pass. Like very underrated playmaker as well. He has the vision. Speed is maybe a bit of an issue, but I think he's an underrated skater as well. Like maybe not the fastest skater, but he's a pretty good skater. And he can do everything. He can mix it up. He's not afraid of getting in the scrums. He's not afraid of chopping it up in front of the bench. He can do everything. And the goal celebrations too, interacting with the fans, all of that stuff. He is fantastic, and I think he was a great choice for captain, honestly. We're really seeing it this year.
I'm still waiting for when he does the ride the stick celebration by the opposing team's bench. I think that'll be hilarious.
I could see it happening in a shootout. There's a couple shootouts already this year. I didn't see too many last year, and there's already been a couple. So it's definitely possible. But a
You
great
need to
game.
do it. Just get the team going. Start
Just
a brawl.
get the guys going. But Mark, I think it's
Get the
time
guys
we
going.
preview next week a little bit. And obviously the top prospects game's coming up. We know Porter Martone's going to be in it, and it's going to be exciting to watch.
I think
Um,
No, not Ivan Kopic either, right?
I don't believe he's in it. Is he draft eligible? I'm not.
This is his draft year.
That's right. Yeah, he is. So I believe
Is
he
he
would
in
be
the
in it. I think
top?
he's one of the highest ranked goalies. So he should be
I
in
th-
it. That's for sure.
I think so. I don't want to get anything wrong on it. But yeah, no, yeah, we'll go this weekend, which they're on the road.
Yeah. So this weekend they are on the road. They don't return to Brampton until next week. Next Wednesday, it is a school day game
School day
against the
game.
Guelph Storm at 11 a.m. And we'll get into that in just a bit. But in terms of this week, obviously not playing at home at all. So Friday, they're in Sarnia, 7 o'clock start. Sarnia, again, is a team that is bottom of the conference in, not completely bottom, but they're, bottom half of the Western standings. They haven't been doing great. So this is a game that you should absolutely win. And a disappointing outing against them in their first game against them in Brampton. So I'm
Yeah.
looking for a big performance here, a big win from the Steelheads. And then when you move to Saturday, in Saginaw, 7 o'clock, Saginaw Spirit, pretty good team. They got Michael Misa there. So it's the Battle of the Misas once again, but this time in Saginaw. And it's Battle of the potentially first overall pick. So I think that's going to be a really good game. That one can go either way, but I think the Steelheads really got to put their best foot forward to win at least Friday night, but I think Saturday would be great as well. It's going to be a battle.
Yeah, as long as you can get at least 4 to 3 points out of this weekend, you should
Yeah.
be okay. And right now as well, which is good for them for the success that they had this week, they climbed back into the playoff picture,
Yep.
sitting in seventh right now. So hopefully, if they could secure 4 points this weekend, they'll be right back in the top five. And then you kind of just take one game at a time. It's a habit I have where I'm like, all right, you go win this game, go next game, but no, you take one game at a time,
Yeah.
climb back into things. Things will be better, and guys are slowly going to come back from injury. So once they get a lot of those guys back, everything will run its course. Yeah,
They're only 11 points back in first place right now, and I say only, but once you come into the new year after the World Juniors are settled, you have about 3 months there to really kick it into high gear with hopefully everybody healthy and all your top players back. So I think there's a lot of runway here still for the Steelheads.
yeah,
Obviously, they're in seventh right now. They climb back into the playoff picture. They should never look back at ninth place ever again for the rest of the year,
yep.
and continue to kick it into the next year. And the young guys are playing pretty well, right? They just have to get some more experience in the OHL. It's a tough adjustment to play in the OHL, right? Especially from AAA or wherever they're coming from, maybe the OJHL. But again, I think that again, like you said, like take it one game at a time, continue to climb up the ladder. Don't look at it too much because you're going to miss some guys for World Juniors coming up soon too. So continue to take it one step at a time and play some good hockey. And I think the young guys will help along the way where need be. But everybody coming back from injury is going to be, I think, key for this team. That's for sure.
Exactly. And they did it in 2017, so I'm sure they could do it again.
That's right. They were in last place in January in 2017. Last place in the league. And
Did they not climb that year, like the first or second?
They finished second in the East, yeah. So it was
yeah,
also a
they
weird
climbed
year because
up.
the West it was crazy. The top four teams in the West would have been first in the East, so it was a weird year. But
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah. Last in the league, and they climbed back in 2017 to take second place. So anything's possible. I think once they're healthy, the sky's the limit for this team.
Oh, for sure. So we'll see what they do. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Mark? Obviously, the prospect game is coming up. It's going to be exciting. It's a different format than usual too, which is going to be fun.
Ooh.
But
What's the format again? I forgot they changed that.
it's just a little bit different. It's like all the prospects together, basically. So,
Is it the NCAA versus the OHL or
yeah,
CHL?
yeah. So the CHL
That's
is
incredible.
yeah. So the CHL is all kind of together instead of dispersed into two different teams. So
I kind of miss the team Bobby Orr's team Don Cherry prospect game. Do you remember those?
I do remember those. Yeah, those are fun. They were doing those up until recently, I believe. So they
Like
were
2015, 14 they stopped?
yeah. Well, no, I think even I covered one in 2018. So I can't remember when those stopped exactly, but it went on for a while. It went on for
Was
a
it
while.
after Cherry got fired, I think?
I'm not sure exactly. It might have been COVID that
Probably.
ended. It might have been the COVID stoppage
You know,
that
you're right.
ended it.
COVID probably did end it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously now we have this new format that I think is going to be cool to watch because
It is pretty cool.
I have invested rooting interest now in one side more than the other, I think, which is
Because
fun.
I kind of want to see, because people are like, oh, the NCAA is better than the O, or the CHL, I should say. And now we can kind of see, like, all right, they're all going to be in one
Yeah.
uh setting here, so it's kind of like bragging rights. Isn't it a 3-game series? No, it's not a 3-game series.
Not a 3-game set, but it's a 2-game set over 2 days. It's the 26th and the 27th coming up this week. We'll cover it next week, depending on what happens in it. I think that'll be fun, and it's in Oshawa, so it's gonna be very interesting to watch over the 2 days there and the 2 games, and USA versus CHL. It's gonna be fun, Mark.
Oh, it's going to be an incredible time. This is the first I'm going to tune into it.
I
It's been a
know,
while since I've seen a top prospect game.
and
I mean,
like,
last year that save Leonard's made is pretty sick.
that was pretty cool. And like you said, there's a rooting interest this year because a lot of people believe that the USA prospects are a lot better than Canadian at this point. So we'll see. We'll see who wins. I think there's gonna be it's gonna be a little bit intense. I think it's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we'll be tuning in.
We will be, yeah. And we will see you all next week in our next episode. And hopefully the Steelheads back on track will continue to
Yeah.
climb the ladder.